Like stuff that's live. I don't know many people like going to funerals. And if you like a funeral, there's something lacking in your life. Because God spent a whole lot of stuff with live folk. Everything he points to is alive. Even when you get dead in him, you got to rise. Alive. So I'm a lively hope. I'm a lively hope. I remember back in Lamentation, he says, and this I recall to my mind. After everything else I've gone through, he said, but when I recall to my remembrance, then I have hope. Nothing ought to happen today. I'm about finished, but if you don't leave here with nothing else, you ought to have some hope today. Don't let nobody take your hope. It ain't worth it. Don't let nobody steal your joy. Don't let nobody come in between you and God. I wouldn't let a Sunday come and I wouldn't be trying to get in the house of the Lord, because it's at that place and being in his presence, I give it to other lively folk and we get a chance to share about the gospel together. Told you I felt like preaching. Come on, preach. Secondly, my hope comes from my belief that God can do anything. And touch the neighbor and say, God can do anything. See, it said here, it said he alive and hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, when you get to that resurrection part, you got to understand that resurrection simply means that God can do anything. Because if God can raise Jesus from the dead, he can do anything. I wouldn't go so, I don't care what my credit score look like. I don't care what my financial status is. I just know God can turn it around. I wish you'd ask your neighbor, has he turned it around for you lately? You ought to ask your neighbor, has he turned it around? Because if he hasn't, he able to. I must be talking to the wrong church this morning. But I want to see somebody that know that God is able to turn it around. Even when I made some mistakes, even when I made some mishaps, even when I got in the way, God is able to turn it around. I don't know about you, but I'm so glad that trouble don't last always. I think I'll high-five myself. So glad that trouble don't last always. That God is able in the midst of everything. God is able to turn it out. If he can raise Jesus, if he can revive Jesus, if he can resuscitate Jesus, if he can rescue Jesus, he can rescue, resuscitate, and revive you. Some of the things that you go through is your own fault. Amen. I was with a group of folk the other night. Boy, we had some fun the other night. Boy, I ain't never said, only us in our culture can have fun with nothing. Amen. Sitting outside at 99 degrees outside. 99 degrees, maybe 100. And we sitting out just sweating. Listening to some old music. One of my brothers, L Dub, I call him. L Dub said, I saw that short for Elder Wilson. He said, when he heard one certain song, he said, got a dip. He said, and it wasn't just like, got a dip. I said, what that mean? L Dub. He said, man, when I was in the right place, and it was all right, and they said, let's dip. I said, got a dip. And somebody said, don't go. He said, I'm going. You got to know sometimes when it's time to dip. You got to know sometimes when you done stayed in a place spiritually too long. You got to know when it's time to dip. That means you got to make another move. That some of us been in the same spot too long. And this is why. because my hope comes from my belief that God can do anything, and it arises out of that because he can rescue me from any circumstance. And when your circumstance get dull, when it gets boring, when it becomes monotonous, it's time to dip. It's time to move to another plateau, another level. Don't let nobody fool you. Spiritually, you can get stale. Spiritually, you can get boredom. And then you start blaming everybody else for your boredom. But if I believe God can do anything, I got to trust him when it's time to change. I'm done.